On Tuesday, November 5th, 2024, a special roundtable discussion on the ongoing United States general election took place at the Bahia Adini Conference Center within National Institute of International Affairs, NIIA, in Victoria Island, Lagos. Organized to bring expert insight on the election, the event gathered renowned scholars, analysts, and policymakers to examine the implications of the U.S. election for Africa, particularly Nigeria. The forum featured an esteemed roster of distinguished guests, including Professor Egosa Osage, Director General of the NIIA, Professor Adeleji Nodu, an eminent political scholar, Professor Femi Otubanjo, a research professor at the NIIA, Dr. Ruben Abati, a Nigerian journalist, politician and television presenter, Mr. Magnus Onyibe, a public policy analyst, author, and democracy advocate. The event commenced with the Nigerian national anthem, setting a formal tone for the day. In his address, Professor Egosa Osage emphasized the importance of such discussion, stating that Nigeria has reached a stage where it must actively monitor, analyze, and learn from significant electoral processes like those in the United States.
America remains a center of attraction for everyone in the world. What happens in America affects, the rest of the world, and most certainly elections, presidential election in America would mean so much to the rest of the world. Now, we don't want to be spectators only. For a long time, we have looked on like people who are simply spectators. If this was a Nigerian presidential election, you would find election observers from different parts of the world coming to monitor our election, to tell us what is right and what is not right. Now, I think we also have reached a point where we should monitor and observe the elections in America and other parts of the world, because we have also grown in democracy. And the point is that democracy is something that we all have to grow and develop. Yes, it is true that we are the receiving end because these things were imported to us, but we have reached a point also where we can begin to say, if we all team up together, we can be better.
Moderated by popular broadcaster Amarachi Ubani, the panel discussion drew insightful contributions from Professor Adeleji Nodu, Mr. Magnus Onyibe, Mr. Femi Ojomu, Dr. Ruben Abati, Professor Femi Otubanjo, and Professor Egosa Osage. Each of these intellectuals shared their thoughts on the relevance of the U.S. election to Africa and Nigeria, potential ramifications should Donald Trump secure victory, and the lessons Nigeria could derive from the election's conduct.
What is important is not just focusing on elections, but on looking at the guardrails that serve to moderate excesses, that serve to moderate expectations, and tend to reassure people. And I think despite all what we say about Trump and about the move to the right in the country and Western, there are important guardrails of democracy. The elections in the U.S. are important because of the place of the U.S. in world politics, and because of the issues that have been raised that show us in the intersection of ethnicity and class. And I think that is important for us to think about.
Why is Nigeria concerned about the American elections? Well, Nigeria is concerned for several reasons. Number one, Nigeria is a strong ally of the United States. Number two, Nigeria claims to be a non-aligned country. In other words, it's neither pro-West nor pro-East. And number three, the practicalities of the dynamics of Nigeria's political, socioeconomic, legal situation invokes the necessity for precision in terms of alignment, strategic alignment, and therefore whoever becomes president of the United States after these elections is going to be vital.
Despite all of this we have said about if Trump gets there, this is what will happen. If Kamala Harris gets there, Kamala Harris is considered more business friendly, like this lady in England now, Kemi Badnoch, We say, oh, it's business that will drive growth, not government. Okay, she may be business friendly. Trump may be a contrarian, and he may be a fascist, as his former officials have said. The major challenge that we face in Nigeria would be either in the direction of foreign policy or in terms of U.S.-Nigeria bilateral relations will be our own domestic policies. After all, in that there's one basic textbook that says domestic policy drives foreign policy. So whether it is Trump or it is Kamala Harris, if we get our domestic policies right, it wouldn't matter who is president in America. And Nigeria will be able to hold its head high in the international space, and our green passport will be given the respect that it deserves. Thank you.
Let me say that neither Trump nor Harris will be inherently good for Nigeria. Neither. Obama was a black American president. What did he do? He refused to sell this A21 Super Tucano to us to be able to prosecute a counter-insurgency. It was Trump that sold it. So Trump saw it in terms of the global fight against terrorism and sold it to us. Having said that, I'm not by any chance a supporter of Trump. By any chance. Because Trump generally will be bad for the world. Harris will be good for America, but it may not be dangerous to the world. With Trump, you have a platform of campaign that is based on race and xenophobia. The other side of xenophobia is isolationism, which Dr. Abbott has rightly pointed out. Once you migrate to isolationism, you have in the territory of unstructured relationship with other countries. Your relationship with other countries will be determined just by your own interests alone, not by a global analysis of interests. And that is why it keeps threatening NATO, even threatens NATO that America was a founding father. Because once you migrate to that xenophobia, to racism, and you end up with isolationism, anything goes.
Trump has proven to be a strong leader. Everybody thought that when he had a spat with the North Korean president, that there was going to be a war. Trump talked about pushing a button. Trump never pushed any button. And before he left, he became the best friends to the North Korean president. So Trump's strategy is different from the traditional strategies that other people adopt. And the world doesn't want to embrace it, or half of the world doesn't want to embrace it. Because tomorrow, whatever anything we're saying about Trump, 50% of Americans are still backing Trump. They are traditionally there. He has not been in power for 4 years. They still remain steadfast. Trump is not anti-immigration. He's anti-illegal immigration. Anti-illegal immigration. Trump welcomes immigrants that are documented, that come through the right process. It's on record. So Trump is ready to welcome Nigerians. He's been welcoming Nigerians. America has interest in Nigeria. The biggest embassy that the U.S. is building in the whole of this, in fact the whole world, is going to be built in a co-Atlantic city. It shows that America has interest in Nigeria. The airlines of the different countries in the Middle East were already landing in each other's country under Abraham Accord. So Trump is a peace builder. He's just not a traditional politician. And Washington wants to do things same old, same old. So I don't agree that Trump is a fascist. I don't agree that under Trump's leadership, Nigeria will be ignored. Trump knows about Nigeria.
The event took an interactive turn as members of the audience joined the discussion. Professor Egusa Osage, in his closing remarks, expressed his enthusiasm for the robust dialogue, commending all participants for their contributions and promising an even more engaging forum in future editions. The roundtable discussion concluded with the Nigerian national anthem, signaling the end of a successful and insightful event. Guests departed, enriched by a deeper understanding of the U.S. election's impact on Nigeria and Africa as a whole.